Um, right, today's agenda. First of all, thank you to our sponsors, Capgemini sponsor Meetup, and Jane Johnson, JJ from Wiser Tribes, provides Zoom for us as well. So, without further ado, I will pass us over to Dapo so we can learn more about psychological safety. Okay, I will make you the. Oh.
No, I think Dapo can share screen.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. That's
yep,
fine.
I will make you a presenter. Here we go.
Thank you. Am I presenter now?
Yeah, you can share screen. Multiple participants can share screens.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes.
We can.
Awesome. Hello, everybody, once again. I'm Dapo Agoro. It's going to be a very quick one, to be honest. So it's the agenda is that. That's the big breakdown of what I have on the agenda today. And we'll try to see what we really understand by psychological safety. So in workplace, do we really need psychological safety? So a little bit under my background, I'm coming from the business analyst background before I became an agile coach a few years back. And that's what I've been focusing on now. And I noticed that when you have teams together, working together to deliver the same objective, you are mixed with different personalities, different culture, and of course, different experience. So I noticed that sometimes some people don't speak out and you feel like they don't have anything to share. But when I began to understand the reason why they don't really want to speak out, I knew that was, an environment that is not safe enough for them to speak out. So I'll quickly go through a research, more like a survey that was done by. So basically, my story tonight will be based on Amy Edmondson's book, so which is focusing on fearless organization, creating psychological safety in the workplace for learning, innovation, and growth. So Amy was interested in a survey from a standard hospital. And the hypothesis she was looking for was, do better hospital teams make fewer medication errors? And that was the result of the survey. So this is a breakdown of 8 units with the report of error, manual error that was identified from the different teams. So in her conclusion, she said better teams are making more mistakes. That's the understanding is, do better hospital teams make fewer mistakes? But unfortunately, the reverse is the case. So she went ahead to send a junior researcher who has no clue about the report errors to go do investigation on that result. And she came up with, without giving her a clue to the hypothesis as well, and she came up with this conclusion. The 8 units that they tested were different. So dynamic in nature in terms of their willingness, in terms of their ability to resolve issues. And of course, some of them were not, confident enough to speak out or to identify what the issue is. So in conclusion, we find out that the team that was actually focusing on looking at the errors and coming up with a solution so that they can improve in their process going forward, were the ones that were making less, fewer errors when compared to the other units. So before we go into deep analysis of what psychological safety is, I'll just try to, define what psychological safety is, a basic term. So it's more like a shared belief held by members of the team You know, it's more like creating a charter or team agreement, and they want to agree on the way they want to carry out their task. So psychological safety is the extent to which people feel safe to express themselves and speak up. That's what is defined as another definition is that it's being able to show and explore oneself without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or the career. So it's important for us to actually understand what a goal is behind team formation. So of course, in Agile, team formation, at the end of the day, you want to create a fearless environment, a highly productive team. So if you have a situation whereby they don't have, the environment is not safe enough for them to speak out, for them to identify issues, and for them to, resolve issue and improve on their process. How can you get to this goal? So creating a fearless environment to me means to have a team that is brave, courageous, fearless, great-hearted, and heroic. So that's what it's all about. So why we need psychological safety? So for the team, it's important for them to understand the basics. It's important for them to understand that when there is a psychological safe environment, they can leverage unique capabilities of everybody, because we have a cross-functional team. We have team that is made up of different skill sets, different experience. If we have them all in one team, how are we able to tap into the uniqueness of team members? That is the reason why you have psychological safety. It gives an opportunity to be competitive, to get to the customer, to deliver goods to the customer at the earliest possible time, because they can innovate and be creative. And it makes them engage, the employee to engage as well. When it comes, it's more like brainstorming. Whenever you come up with an issue, you want to come with a team together, brainstorm, and gives them opportunity to come up with the best scenario or best solution to whatever problem that comes up. So that's the reasons why we have, psychological safety. So the question is, do organizations always leverage the power of the teams? Some yes, some no. And the reason why no is because of fear of the rules. Maybe there are certain rules in the organization they don't want to break. Possibly there are status difference in the culture. Possibly there's hierarchy issues, syndromes, and they have more like a culture that doesn't welcome bad news. They can't take bad news to their subordinates or to their superiors in order to come up with a solution to resolve this problem. So we need to leverage unique capability in the teams. How do we do that? It's important we speak up. Teams need to speak up. They need to brainstorm, share ideas, different ideas put on the table, and then we come up with the best that is more, beneficial to the business we are working with. It's important also to report mistakes. Some of them, because they don't want to point fingers to the person that is created that error, they might just throw things, take it instead of bringing it to the table for discussion to happen within the teams, and then we come up with a solution. They rather not do that because they are not safe in the environment they are working in. Challenge one another. Yes, challenging positively, challenging and coming up with a better way of working, coming up with a better scenario to that problem. And also feel free to ask questions. Give them an environment whereby they can ask questions and they don't, get penalized for asking questions. And of course, radical candor, the ability to challenge directly and at the same time showing that they care. The reason being, they are not challenging for, the negative impact of, but they just want a positive impact, the positive results to come out from that, whatever criticisms or challenges they come up with. So what psychological safety is not. I think it's important we mention that, yeah, we have created an environment whereby the teams are now safe to speak out, but then there is a very thin line between what psychological safety is and what its perception is. So do what you like in the environment. That's not psychological safety. Like I earlier mentioned, team agreement. We all come together as a team and we agree, we have a charter, we agree on how we want to work as a team. So no performance expectation. No, there is performance expectation when it comes to psychological safety. Essence of that is excellence, quality. So if there is no uncertainty in an environment, and there is no need for interdependency, whereby teams come together, brainstorm, and rely on each other, then there's no need for psychological safety. When we say psychological safety, it doesn't mean it's low standard. It does not mean that we cannot be accountable for whatever decision we are taking. It's not about being reckless. It's not about ignoring the rules and regulation, and of course, the constraint in the organization. So I'm just going to skip that slide. So there's confusion between psychological safety and trust. So psychological safety is a group phenomenon, a shared belief. It's all about the theme, collaborative decision making across the team. Trust, on the other hand, exists in the mind of an individual towards another or an organization, for instance. So trust is when you give somebody the benefit of doubt and the consequences is in the future. Whereas psychological safety is, for immediate. So I'm going to skip that. So when we say what a lack of psychological safety looks like, so when you have an environment whereby you don't have psychological safety, you see threats like during the investigation after a crash, which claimed the life of 7 people, asked why. So there is a feeling of fear to speak up. It's a common phenomenon, especially in hierarchy of an organization. It could be very dangerous, and it's always, good to try to avoid environments that have such. So, and at the end of the day, it's all about being silent, not speaking up. So let's see what that impact is. When team members are together in the team and they are given a task to deliver at a specified time, and no one is picking up, no one gains, of course. You wouldn't even know the knowledge that each member of the team have to share. So we rob ourselves and colleagues of small moments of learning. So if you share what you have as a team member A and team member B chips in, at the end of that discussion, definitely everybody gains. But in the places where everyone is not speaking out, you lose this opportunity. It doesn't create, environment for creativity and innovation. Brainstorming gives you opportunity to look at different scenarios and come up with the best scenario. And at the end of it all, the business will lose. So business opportunities lose. It's more like building an app. And then there are so many other features that you could have discussed to add to that application. But if you don't have an environment to actually brainstorm with the expertise in that field to discuss the feasibility of certain features, of course, it's not going to work. You only create an app that is possibly maybe a generic one, that is not creative or innovative. So those are the things that we miss out. And mitigating opportunities that are missed. Failure to create an environment like that has great impact on not us as individuals. It has impact on the team. And of course, at the end of it all, the business will be losing from that. Yes, a lot of people want to change. We're all looking for an environment that brings about change, innovation. But then it's, not everybody really want to be a part of this change. When we talk about transformation, innovation, change in an environment, we notice that some people are really reluctant when it comes to that. But at the end of it, when they see the result of that change, they embrace it, but it can be a challenging one. Trust me. So how can we build an environment that encourages psychological safety? As an agile coach, this is what I do. When I join projects, I always create an avenue whereby I let my coachees feel free to say anything. I want them to trust me to share certain things. So what do? I usually don't put on that cap as a coach. I put on the cap that I'm a part of the team. I'm there to support them. When they fail, we fail. I include them. I let them acknowledge that I'm also fallible, right? I'm not a perfect being. I'm also improving on myself. So when, as a leader, it's always encouraged that you create that environment. So frame your work as a learning problem, not as execution problem. So let them chip in, even if you know every feature for delivery of a product. Give them that opportunity, carry them along to chip in, brainstorm, and let's filter what is good from what is bad. That creates an environment whereby all the team members are happy to be a part of it. You carry them through that journey of change. And a model of always asking questions. So I'll use an instance whereby you have team member that is just laying back, not speaking out, just chip in, throw in a curious question so that it gets involved. It's all about team effort, not an individual effort. So if you create an environment whereby your team as a leader trusts you, definitely you would give them a psychological safe environment. And it's going to be a positive one for them, because not only for them, for you as well as the leader, and in the long run for the organization. But you also need to be sensitive, sensitive to the different stakeholders you're dealing with, sensitive to the different personalities you are dealing with. I'll give you an instance whereby a personality doesn't want you to correct them when they make certain mistake when the rest of the team are there. You need to identify that kind of personality, and one that feel he doesn't see any offense in doing correcting him instantly. You need to work on that as well. Identify the team members you're working with, and then tailor the kind of approach you are going to use in carrying them along until when the whole team is psychologically safe, and then you can take all of them together in that journey. Okay. So basically, as a leader, which I'm sure every one of us is, when we get to an environment that is not safe for innovation, that is not safe for people to speak up, we need to set the stage through communication. The importance of the new behavior and what is new required. So building a team agreement, let them come up with a team agreement, how we want to work as a team. and let them take that role. So I've identified that some errors can be, productive response to different kind of failures. So when it comes to the preventable failures, so these are failures that you need to continue to coach them, retrain them on what they can prevent in terms of error. When it comes to complex failure, of course, the system or the process is too complex. So it's important to break it down for them to have an understanding of what the process is. And of course, intelligent failure, experimentation. Let's experiment. And that's what Agile focuses on. So let's try it this way. If it doesn't work, we'll try another way until we get to that point whereby we're satisfied, and you keep on improving. You don't only stop there. Even if you get there, you always have at the back of your mind that there's always room for improvement. And of course, gives them opportunity to be creative and innovative in the way they are working. Okay, am I making sense?
100%.
Yes, of course.
Brilliant. So I'll go to the next slide. What can we do? When your colleagues ask you help, they ask for your help, gladly offer, willingly and gladly answer those questions. Give them full attention. Sometimes you don't have an answer to a question, but you need to show body language. You need to show to them that you are actively listening. That alone gives them that space of comfort, space of sharing issues with you. They know that whenever they approach you, you've got the listening ears for them, and they definitely will approach you, and that's an avenue of creating psychological safety. So when you learn something new as a team, share it when it's beneficial to the team. Share it with them so they don't have to go through the same process. And they're also looking for an opportunity to share with the rest of the team. You see that? So you're building a community rather than a team. Community that people are free to say anything. Community that people are, they trust everyone in the team. So that is what psychological safety actually focusing on. And because we continually are uncertain on a problem, we're looking for avenues to resolve it, and we need interdependency of team members. We cannot afford to sabotage our team members. Yes, there are situations whereby team members come up with solutions that are not so relevant. Others come up with a better solution. So bear at the back of your mind that whenever you share an idea, it doesn't have to be taken aboard. So you don't take it personal, okay? Create an avenue whereby you're curious of asking questions, you want to continually improve. It's a mindset shift entirely. Forget about those old ways of doing things. Let's be active. And I'm going to dive in a little bit into Agile this way because it puts life into the team. You always look forward to leaving your home, going to meet this team that makes you lively, that gives you that sense of belonging, sense that yes, whatever you chip in, they recognize that, and you always looking for a better way of improving yourself as well. Okay, so that's what I was saying about team agreements. So that certain things you can just, sorry about that, certain things, breakdown of what team agreement or charter is. How do we want to show respect? That is key. Respect is really key here. And contribution, how do we want to contribute? How do we want to do our meetings in terms of transparency? How do we share information across the team? What are the issues in the team and how do we solve them? Make it transparent to everyone and look out for even better ways of improving that. And we want also to commit to the team. Whatever you say you would do, make sure you do it and timely, okay? Let's just erase that aspect of negative gossips Of course, no gossips. Let's share goals. Let's create an avenue of trust. We want to trust each other. We know that whatever we decide as a team doesn't go out to the other. If it's confidential, it stays within us, and that's it. We act like we're in Las Vegas, okay? And that's it. Any questions?
You need an applaud.
I beg your pardon?
You need an applaud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a quick one though, but I hope you enjoy the session.
Yeah, I have to admit it's a quick one, but you covered a lot of information in a short span of time.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Rather than spending too much time on every slide, you touched on the main important points, and you helped us listen focusly. I think, yeah, it's definitely a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, am I able to ask a question to the group?
Yeah.
So what do people tend to find are like the first signs that psychological safety is breaking down for the team? Has anyone got any experiences of something they can instantly pick out if they can see that's happening?
Okay, if I understand correctly, how do you identify if this environment is not safe enough?
Yeah, well, how are your teams responding to it? How can you tell the telltale signs that, has anyone got any experience around that? So for me, one of them is always false harmony, people who are always, just going along and nodding and agreeing to stuff. And as soon as they're out the room, they're disagreeing in the corner in huddles. Yeah, that's one of the biggest signs for me when people just won't disagree with each other in a room. But I didn't know if anyone else had any kind of experiences that could help other people recognize the signs.
Okay, can I share one? Okay, somebody going to do that?
So the biggest thing, what I observed, especially when I'm working with a team made up of both permanent people and contractors, contractors tend not to share the transparency of the progress with a psychological thinking, if I finish work soon, or if I give more exposure or the transparency, I may not stay here too long, or maybe my Scrum Master may make me do more work. So most of the times I used to identify from contractors, especially, probably they're trying to protect their.
You're breaking up,
I
Suresh.
think it's breaking off, yeah.
Is it clear now?
Yeah, better.
Yeah. So a lot of times I come across with the contract people.
How so?
So what I used to do is, whenever I start working with a contractor, the very first thing, the first conversation I have with him, do not worry about your existence or your longevity here. And I open up the forecast and I tell him, look, for the next 6 months, I definitely want you. There is forecast, there is demand, there is budget. So don't bother about your existence. And that's one of the ways I try, just to give them the confidence that I definitely need you for the next 6 months. And beyond that, I also share the pipeline of work that we're expecting to come into the plate.
Yeah. There is another sign I notice is that when in a group of people, it might seem like they are challenging each other, but if someone has to defend themselves, or if you see that those are all kind of telltale signs I have noticed. If someone is challenging and the other person is defending themselves or explaining themselves, yeah, actually I know, are the proving themselves, looking for approval within the group, or trying to prove themselves, that is a sign of psychological safety is threatened for them.
Yeah, I also have an example. I think that it's quite important to every time measure the health of the team. And yeah, you can identify some telltale signs early on. One very clear example is to take note of the dominant voice among the group. Yes, always try and identify the dominant voice, because when that voice go dominant for quite a long time, it suppresses and doesn't encourage others to contribute. So as a leader that serves, you need to step in very diplomatically and try and manage those expectations so you can give the team members the opportunity to feel wanted and to feel that their contribution is quite important. And by so doing, you are able to ensure that there is that high performance and there's that willingness to contribute from everybody.
What is your experiences? What are your experiences, Dapo? You are on mute, Dapo.
Thank you. I've worked with different personalities. I think, as an agile coach, I usually understand the personalities I'm dealing with. Yes, I agree with you, Dan. There has some personalities like that, and I've worked with them. So what did I do in that scenario? So basically, I've identified that. I know what his strong point is. But then those that are not speaking out, I focus my questions on them. I realized that this dominant personality, whenever it gets furious, it disorganizes the team. The spirit just goes down. And whenever it's in high spirits, same as well. So it's important that I speak to that person one-on-one, to identify, yes, I appreciate what you're contributing. And I made him kind of step down a bit and give the others opportunity. So you have to be conscious. Let him know the impact, okay? But diplomatically, okay, don't take it, you shouldn't take it personal, because the end goal, of course, you want to have a benefit of what you're doing across the whole team. You see what yeah. So it's important for you to identify the different personalities, understand their strong points, and also understand their weak points. And those that are not speaking out, you also need to talk to them. The one that is not speaking out, what did I do to this one? So one-on-one, I let him know that this is my perception. So he doesn't feel embarrassed. I said, in the next ceremony or a meeting, I want you to facilitate. So I gave him that role as a facilitator. So he had no other choice but to speak out. And gradually he was building confidence. And before you know it, once you identify each and every one of them in the team, you know the way to handle them as individuals and then build a community across the team. So that's how I do. I don't take the team as one. I take individuals at different personalities in the team, work my way through until I build a team whereby I create a psychological safe environment for team members. Does that answer your question, Melinda?
Yeah. I was just interested in people's experience because I'm an Agile coach as well, and some of the things that I really, I'm passionate about is making sure that, people see conflict as a good thing, and they have a really good discussion about, what actually when have you been in an experience where having conflict has come out with something good, or when have you been in an experience when having conflict, has ended up being really bad? How do you actually, progress as a team? I think it's called STAN. I've got it reminds me of a presentation I did. So I was just flicking through my presentation because I couldn't remember where it is. But basically there's a volcano of conflict, which is really good. I'm just trying to find who that belongs to. I went too far. So you can go and look it up. But it's something, if Speedley's, that's it. I was going to say Stanley, but obviously that's Marvel. So Speedley has this volcano conflict, which is really good to share with teams. So if you have a team that doesn't seem to be settling, you know, you can kind of show them that and show them that it takes quite a bit for a volcano to explode, and there is a way back. You know, there's different levels of conflict in the team. So there's lots of things that you can look at and try in general. So yeah, it's just interesting because everybody has so many different experiences of how team members interact. Emotional intelligence is important. Unconscious bias plays a lot as well in teams. You know, you have to kind of also speak to how you recognize unconscious bias, how you speak out about it. There's all sorts of things that you can cover. Unfortunately, it's a big world of once you open the massive world of psychological safety, you can go down a big rabbit hole, and it's hard to know, you know, sometimes which points will help your team most and which won't. But all you can do is try different retros and conversations.
So from my experience, it's Jo here. Hi, I have a problem where we have a split team where there's a lot of people who do want to talk and improve and have those conflicts and discussions, and there's half a team that don't want to speak at all, and it's drawing out those the quieter speakers that I find the most interesting, because I'm very vocal. I say what I think. I'm quite confident in my approach, and it's finding how to bring those quieter people out is probably one of the things I notice. And it may be because they are quiet, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable in that environment. So having one-to-ones with them, as you've suggested, it is a good idea, and understanding why they're quiet is a good thing. Is it because they don't feel safe, you know, or is it just that they don't have anything to add at that point? So I find the conflict I quite enjoy. Actually, I quite enjoy having lots of conversations and having those conversations and people speaking up. But I find the quieter ones sometimes step back more. So that, from my experience, it's about trying to bring them into the conversation.
Quieter ones, they have. Sorry, Suresh.
Yeah, so I was in a similar situation. How's my internet now? Can't open the door.
Iffy, Suresh. It's a bit iffy.
Are you telling your children to go off the internet? That's what I do.
Sorry, my daughter keeps closing the door, so I can't get the internet from downstairs.
I'm joking. Sorry, what was your experience, Suresh?
Yeah, is it any better now?
It's better now. Yeah.
So I was in a similar situation maybe a few months ago. So what I tried was I used a retrospective opportunity. So what I did was I went to the team and I said, guys, all of you go away individually. Identify what are the 3 improvements that you're expecting as out of this retro, so that if when there's a team of 7 into 3, I need to look at my maths. I'm very bad at maths. So they came up with those many improvements, and now I said, okay, you break into 2. So that every two pair will have 3 + 3, 6 improvements. I said, you talk to each other, have a discussion around your 6 improvements, come up with 3 from them.
Okay. So you made the group smaller to make it less intimidating.
Yeah. So finally, I made sure the whole team talk to each other and come up only with 3 improvements. So it may have started with 50 because individually everyone had 3. When they came at the end of the conversation, they came up with only 3 improvements. So by doing this, I gave them the room to think of their own, come up with something, and then start to negotiate with someone else so they can filter it. So that's one of the things I've tried.
Yeah, so liberating structures like 1, 2, 4s are really good.
Correct. So I've used one of those liberating structures. So I've done a PSM2 course, and that's where I learned that particular trick there, and then I applied in my team.
Okay.
I can definitely recommend go and have a look at the liberating structure. There's some amazing tools on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I believe in liberating structures to some extent. That generates more engagement and conversation between the whole team, and because there's no room for escape for that particular individual without talking.
Yeah, and the other thing I have is
We can hear you, Joe.
Oh, apologies. I'm just checking. I'm trying to write some notes. Apologies. So, yeah, the other thing is changeable teams, because you can have a really safe structure. One person comes in and it's not anymore. And that is, from my experience, as we all know, I have changeable teams. That's something that, you know, has happened recently. It takes a lot of time to build that up. And then I like the agreement, the team agreement. I think that's something I need to reinvent, I think, in the teams, because that team agreement can be shared as soon as somebody joins, so everyone gets reminded of it, and the new people come in, have that safety and that recognition that it is safe as well. Just something for me to think about as well, to introduce because of that. Thank you.
But sometimes, even after we come up with a team agreement, the team will come up with a team agreement, and then once the retro is complete, then even forget it. So probably we may need to keep on reminding them, pushing them, nagging them, maybe in a gentle way. I see a lot of that happen, especially when I work with public sector clients, whereas in private sector clients, in the subconscious mind, once they come up with a team agreement, due to some reason or some kind of a psychology, they tend to agree to the team agreement. But whereas in the public sector, sometimes they don't tend to stick to the agreement. So probably that's where we may need to keep pushing them.
Thank you.
That's when having that psychological safety is the most important, isn't it? Because you need the team to be accountable for their own agreements. You shouldn't be the one reminding all the time. You need people in the team who are feeling safe enough to remind people, no, that's not how we agreed we were going to behave.
But we end up doing really that.
I like the one that says no gossip. I think I probably need to remind myself of that one. So,
live on YouTube.
Quite funny. Yeah, I was like,
Can you?
We should all start with.
We are live on YouTube.
Are you okay to share the?
No gossip.
Sorry. Kelly, are you okay to share the slides?
Yes, I think she's happy to share the slides.
Sure. I already sent it to Prima.
I got
there's lots of information.
I'll share it with everyone here. That's fine.
Yeah. I have an interesting question. When I heard all the conversation talking about psychological safety in my team, how I different method I have used and all those things. Have you asked the question, how about the psychological safety among the agile coaches when we are in a group of agile coaches, each one trying to say, look, I got a best method, look, I got a better method, I did this way, I did that way, each one trying to grab the airspace, and I want to speak. How do you feel about the psychological safety there?
I'll give up.
It's funny you're going to say that.
Have you experienced that, Prem, then, have you? Have you had experience of that?
Right now?
I have. But Patrick, sorry, were you trying to say something then?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah. No, in what I have seen is that in all the community of practice, agile community, Scrum Master community, that is the one lot I have found most difficult to deal with. So that is the one lot lack of psychological safety I have observed more than in their teams themselves.
I think probably Prema, because everyone might be trying to prove they are better than someone else, because the moment human brain always have a bad tendency to start comparing with someone else.
Yeah, there is a.
I'm not going to say anything.
I was going to say, Patrick, you had a point. So I was waiting
I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to be totally open. You've just proved the point. You know, I've worked in transformations with like 100 agile coaches, and that is painful. For me, if you get 5 agile coaches together, you'll get 30 different approaches to one problem.
Yeah.
And trying to pick through that without egos can be extremely difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was going to say another experience is that currently where I work, we have effectively a team with 2 squads, so two scrum teams, and 2/3 of each team are coaches.
And the psychological safety, to a certain extent, sometimes feels like it's a veil, because people will challenge and other people will take it personally. And trying to pick through the personalities for that is my challenge. You know,
which must be really frustrating, Patrick, because at the end of the day, we're the ones supposed to be leading by example. And then when people get in a group where, I mean, I've been there at a session where there's been loads of agile coaches and scrum masters from a company, and there was one that would just literally pick a hole in everybody's point of view, and like we had to step them aside in the end and go, what is it you're trying to prove here? Because you're making this a really uncomfortable experience, and we're all supposed to be learning from each other today.
You put me in the naughty corner, did you, Melinda?
Well, I felt like it, to be fair. I just had a quiet word because he was from my office, and I was like, you know what, you're not doing yourself any favours here.
So maybe on the team agreement you could put in like no egos, maybe, and remind people of that. I guess it's the only thing you can do, isn't it?
Is there a practical approach there of, by showing your own vulnerability first, you might get other people to be more open about what the issues are that they're facing? Because I've always said, you know, yeah, I might have led a couple of people, but I'm not the best. In no way. I don't know everything. I don't know nothing. I want everyone. And I'll come to people and go, I've got this problem, and people got ideas. I wonder.
I have told a difficult team at a time that I was suffering quite a bit from basically my mental state at that point. I was suffering from imposter syndrome. There's a few other things, and the way they were acting and behaving really wasn't helping the situation. So you know, we all came back after Christmas and stuff, and we started a kind of a kick-off session. We had a couple of new people, and we were mixing up the teams, and I was just straight off the bat said, look guys, you know I haven't been on my A game before Christmas. You know, I know I missed a few things. I know I was actually party to us failing on that other thing because I didn't recognise quick enough that we needed to change direction. And I've been struggling, so I'm really going to need some of your help here. And then it completely changed people's attitudes within. Unfortunately, the team about a month later went back to how they were, but at that moment in time, it was. Sometimes you've just got to put yourself out there and go, you know what, I can't do this on my own.
That's really interesting to hear that just leading by example did actually bring about some change, even if it was temporary, because it's hard to know whether leading by example is enough if people don't actually have the concepts in the first place to spot stuff when it is pointed out to them, and to know kind of what to do about it and how to respond to that sort of stuff. So it's good to know that just showing
people forget about the empathy, and you can always start things off. I don't know whether you've tried this, but using the just like me statement, you know, where you can create some agreements around just like me. You know, I've got family at home and I've got other things just like me. I like not to be talked over, you know, things like that. There's different ways that you can approach that to try and make people remember that you're human beings and not robots. And that work shouldn't be that painful.
I guess that's one thing that lockdowns really kind of helped to level a few situations, isn't it? Because we've all had, you know, kids walking in the background, or deliveries, or cats crawling on keyboards, or, you know, this it does show the more human side of us all, doesn't it?
Yes.
You've got a life just like me.
Absolutely.
Any strategy? Any strategy? Dapo? Can you give it?
Sorry, Prem. There's a bit of noisy background there.
Yeah, any strategy you can think of, you can give us on in situations like this that people might feel the psychologically challenging situations, or some of our colleagues may be facing challenging situations that we may be part of, like community of agile coaches. How do you deal with it? What kind of strategies we can think of for that?
Okay, strategy. I think it's also important to bear in mind that team formation is in different stages. You know, when you bring individuals together, starting a team for the first time, they need to form before they actually start performing. So we need to recognize that as well. So when they get to that stage of performing, as in forming stage, then you expect certain things from them. So I've worked with Prima, and we have a group of agile coaches. Yes, I identify with that aspect that everybody wants to be known for their own things, forming, storming, norming, and performing. Thank you for that, Andy. So when you come together, I think what I earlier said was identifying the personalities you're working with. You know, there is no specific strategy. What works for that personality should be what you look for. I gave an instance while I was doing the presentation whereby I have different Scrum Masters that need to be approached different ways. One of them doesn't mind being approached instantly. Once he makes that mistake, just correct him. The other one, if you do the same thing to him, it feels a bit, uncomfortable with that. So it's important to have a one-on-one with that person. So the strategy will not be one specific strategy. Rather, you tailor your strategy to that individual. At the end of it, you want to bring all these individuals together as a team and build a community. So I create that relationship between me as an agile coach for the team. I want them to trust me. I want them to be safe to discuss anything with me, so that any step you take, they know you are looking out for them to improve better on what they are doing. I think that is key. Identify the personality, create that the relationship, business relationship with that individual, give them that opportunity to be free to discuss anything, and always be a part of the team. Let them know that you're not there to monitor them, to report back to the management. No, if they fail, you fail. And if they succeed, you succeed. So the moment you carry them along and let them know you are part of the team, then they are free to say anything. You see what I mean? So because most times when they see you as a leader in the team, they feel you're observing, you are looking for their shortfalls to escalate to the management. That's why majority of them hold back. So comfortable environments for them to be able to discuss anything, that is paramount. And once you create that platform, you see them, you get the best out of them. Give them opportunities. Don't always be there as a leader to contribute, to control or manage them. This is the task, guys. How do we want to break down the subtask in this task? Let's brainstorm on that. Once we can achieve this goal, this is what we want to do. Once we can achieve this goal, I don't mind how you go about it. Let's come together and collaboratively as a team, deliver that value. You need to be conscious of that as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Terence, do you have any question?
You know me, I've always got questions.
Oh,
So I've got a very particular. Oh, I realize my camera's on. I've got a very particular thing which I think a lot of us might be familiar with, where I've got two groups of people. One who work for a IT service company, and the other one's a customer, and they've put us together in a team. Yeah, and what I've noticed and what I'm trying to work out a better way of doing is, I've noticed when it's someone from my own organization talking, when they're challenging the customer, they challenge, but they put a prefix in front of that challenge. They'll sort of say, we've noticed this, or me and such were talking and we spotted this. It's never that they've spotted it by themselves. It's like a safety numbers thing. And they always sort of say, or they either say, we've noticed this, or they'll say, I don't mean to offend anyone, but have you tried doing this instead? That's obvious. To me, it's a sign. Is it a sign that they're not psychologically safe in talking to the customer and that the team's not got the safety there? Or are they just trying to be professional? I'd love to know your opinion. What do you think? Do you think it's that they're trying to be professional, or that they just don't feel safe enough with the customer yet to be able to drop that pretense bit and just say, hey, this looks wrong. I've looked at this and this is wrong. It's
a journey. It's a journey, Terence. Is it the first time of meeting that customer? Of course, you don't expect them to be.
Not.
Or is it been long? Then obviously there is something wrong. Obviously, the customer, they possibly have a customer that they are not comfortable speaking out with. So it's important to dig deep and see what the issue is before you can actually solve the problem. There might be so many things that is triggering that. It might be. So it's important you identify. Okay, I'll give you an instance of a project that I joined there in Telford. I worked in Telford for HMRC. And I worked with a team of people. When I got there, I saw this personality. He usually doesn't speak up, but then he's good at backbiting. So, I identified that. Of course, I want a business relationship for the rest of the team. So what did I do? I just wanted everyone we go have lunch together, so we can discuss topics that is not relevant to work. I want to discuss myself with them. I want to tell them what I like. It's more like creating an environment to tell them that come outside work, you have a life. Okay. And I think that way they'll be open to you. Okay. They know that, yeah, aside from work, we can discuss certain things with Dapo. They are free to do that. You want to discuss football. And I told them that, come guys, we're here for lunch, no job related discussion. Let's discuss other things. That way I was able to, for the one that wasn't speaking out, I was able to ask curious questions about his family. What's your family like? Do you have kids? Then they start discussing, they're free. You create that relationship. So when we step out of the restaurant and we're all chatting away, walking back to the office, chatting away, yeah. I try to make sure that the group that I was chatting with while we're going is different from the group that I was chatting in while going back. So I had opportunity to, be free with everyone, and my sense of humor was there. So they knew that this agile coach is not that rigid one, They are free to converse. When we get back to the office, it was different entirely compared to the relationship that I had prior to the lunchtime, relationship. Yeah. They knew more about me. One was even coming on a frequent basis, chatting me up. They knew that I was hoping, I was approachable. That's the right word. You need to make that environment. You have to create it. It's important. If you don't create that environment, definitely they will not be safe. So that's one way that I helped my team, and like I earlier said, personality also matters. If it's one that you have to have a one-to-one with, great idea, go for it. So look at that personality and see what works. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Hi, I'm new to the group, Francesca. I used to work in an agency, digital marketing agency, and I went through a similar experience as you, Terence. So working with developers and designers, with customers. And what I found when we had conversations like this, so, you know, a developer or designers raising something to a customer, they'd have the similar approach of "we found" rather than "I have found." And what I found, I think what you were saying before, is it Dapo? Yeah, building the relationship always works for me. You know, obviously we're all humans, and it's good to know what experiences and what people react best to. But the other way of doing it is that I found that works is making sure that those people in your team have the right way of putting across feedback. So using the I've noticed that framework, and I'm not sure if you've heard of that, so I've noticed it, the situation, and then the result of that might be good to use. But also maybe your team member, whoever's saying "we," are not really confident in, you know, saying that it was them that spotted something, and maybe you could ask why that they're not confident, because maybe they're not fully understanding what the problem is. Maybe it was someone else that's pointed it out, or they're not entirely sure how to explain what the problem is. So that's maybe the reason why they're emphasizing on "we" rather than "I." So yeah, so being able to confidently tell someone what the situation is and what the result is, yeah, might be
sounds good.
helpful for you.
I'll give that a try as well. Thank you.
I was going to say, Terence, there might be many different reasons why somebody's using that way, but certainly if it was me using it, it'd be for professional reasons, nothing other than that.
Well, as in we, the organisation. Yeah.
You know me from training. No, I think sometimes the person can be using it manipulatively.
Okay.
If that's an English word. In themselves, you know, their way of trying to manipulate the conversation, or it could be because they don't feel safe to actually, you know, depends on what the customer's reaction has been in the past and things like that. So I definitely think sometimes using that "how I feel because of your behaviour" and the impact that it might bring is a way of getting deeper conversations.
The actual situation, it tends to be on technical discussion. Sorry, I'll bore everyone with details. It tends to be the technical discussion, and someone's made a suggestion, and the other person, the person who does it most frequently, is very knowledgeable. The reason why he's there as part of a team anyway is because of his vast experience and knowledge. But I don't know if, and I think you gave a great suggestion about going and talking to them and making that close relationship. I do wonder if he's maybe been burnt or something before with the customer and being dressed down in front of people or something. So I had a really bad experience, and maybe that's why he does that. We think this, and I'm thinking, no, we don't. You think it, and we all agree with you, and we're happy we agree with you, but it's your idea. Or maybe he's not wanting to take credit for some of the ideas, but it does come across when he wants to push back against something that the customers maybe suggested, where we know that if they were to go down a particular route, it would cause some issues. And I just did it. I did it myself. I just said, we know. So he knows that it'll cause them an issue. So
maybe you need to go back to, if it's someone that you've worked with for a while, maybe you need to go back to the way you work with that customer, and do like a refresher session on how you work together, like some assumptions, maybe go through those of
Yeah, but I think they skipped. So it was a team I've taken over. They skipped building a team charter at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone back to it since, but it was sort of a, how to put that?
More of a platitude.
Yeah, but, and this is a great audience to ask this to. It's people who are like at the program board or director level, and they're like, it's fine for everyone else to spend an hour coming up with a team charter, but I'm important. I have someone manage my calendar and make my appointments, that sort of person. And you're like, hey, this is really important, but they tend to be difficult to nail down. I think it's the best way to put it. I keep on going back to them and just sort of saying, hey, if we did this again, we'd get, not just on the team charter, on some other areas, we would get better, we'd be able to inspect and adapt more often and get a better feedback loop, and we'd be able to improve. But it can be very tricky to nail down. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that at that program sort of level or director level.
Can you put any sort of data behind it?
Oof.
Reasons what would happen if we didn't do it?
Yeah, I guess I'm experiencing the things that happen when we don't do it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's ever a point. I think what I've recently found is I started with the new team. I was a new person. The team were very established. So as a delivery manager, I felt, a lot of imposter syndrome. I was thinking, oh God, they've already done this. My assumptions were they've already done it. But I just got to a point where I was like, right, I'm just going to do it. I want to get to know people, and we'll go through roles and responsibilities, and it's actually very effective. I was quite glad to do it because we got to know each other a bit more, and now we work much better as a team. And I think being able to bring out problems and talk with each other easier saves so much time, especially if you're working on something that you need to deliver to a time or a budget, saving that valuable time of actually, right, we know each other, we know where we stand, and then we can carry on. I don't think there's ever not a point to say, well, we need to do this, and actually just take that time to stop and reevaluate where you are.
And I think, Francesca, as somebody mentioned earlier on, the Tuckman model of going through the forming, storming, norming, performing, team change is a great moment to take that step back, and you might be you might actually be the team member that's changed. You coming in, if everybody else is already there and have been there for a little while, you can take that opportunity because you're the person coming in. So helping to not speed the route through the storming, but maybe getting to new norms is good.
Just triggered another thought in my mind, Francesca, when you mentioned that bit about as well, is that and you mentioned, is there any data to go with that? And I just was reminded of that different sorts of people relate to different things in different ways. Some people are more visual people, some people are more numbers and spreadsheets and tables people. Different people kind of key into information in different ways. And I suppose if Terence, if the person that you're trying to convince, this CEO, this kind of high up person is, do you have a sense of what sort of stuff do they relate to, or if they were going to take in some information and really understand it and engage with it, what sort of format would that information need to be in? Would it need to be pie charts or numbers or spreadsheets or anecdotes? What would they really relate to?
I would say anecdotes and short and brief. So the person I've got in mind is very like, one of his big complaints recently was, hey, someone's given me a 114-page document. there's only 10 pages that I'm actually interested in. What are they doing producing all the rest of this? It's got no value. And you're like, yes, I totally agree with that, with the sentiment, but how they got him to read that document in the first place is unknown.
Did they manage it?
Pardon, Andy?
Did they manage to get him to read 104 pages?
Yeah, he read the whole thing, but I don't know how.
Could you ask them how they managed it? Because that would be a trick worth learning, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean the theories there are just I don't know what would work in that situation. But if just taking a step back and thinking, right, if I was going to try and get through to this person, what would they relate to? What format would I have to try and put that across in? And if they want short, snappy anecdotes, is there a short, snappy anecdote that either you can not maliciously make up, but make up something to illustrate, or use an existing thing that you've already got to illustrate the point that you're trying to get across in, a short time, in a way that they might engage with.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for that.
And in terms of Francesca's point as well, especially about senior leadership and getting at that level, it's crucial. I worked with a company recently, great potential as a company, been going a little while, was a medium-sized company. And I came in and the job was, I want you to fix the development teams. I went, well, how far do you want me to look at this? Do you want me to have a look at the whole? And I want the culture to change. The culture must change. I said, well, if you're going to ask me to look at culture, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to look at culture of the whole organization and how the developers are also impacted, what could be stopping them from performing as you are expecting them to perform. And it was very clear just after a week of me being there that every leader in every area of the company, which was quite flat to be fair, all had a completely different trajectory in mind that the company should be going. From their point of view, whether it was really technical, whether it was sales, whatever, and every single one of them was terrified of the boss of the company. So when he was in the room, everybody would just nod, and if he made a suggestion which meant they would have to change their whole direction just off the cuff, they were like, oh yeah, we'll try and sort that. And I'm like, what are you all doing? And that's the indication. You need to get them all together and go, okay, what are your roles and responsibilities? Because they were treading on each other's toes. They were trying to prove which ego was better, and there was a lot of mansplaining over the women in terms of leadership and all sorts of unconscious bias going on, and that's the stage where you need to sit everyone back and go, let's start from scratch. Let's come up with a team agreement. Let's actually have a look at the value stream of this company as well. Where are the blockers? You're saying you're blocking each other. Well, how is that the case? How can you communicate? And it's those type of things that if you can report back, say that these are just my observations. And I think by doing these things, we'll turn around some of these behaviours and some of these unpredictable things that are going on across the company. They can talk to each other. This is what we can do. And whether they buy it or not, at that point, but at least you've come to them with some form of data and evidence of what you've been seeing, and a good suggestion of how we could tackle that, because I think you have to come with solutions to, okay, well, this is how we can tackle it. When you're talking to leadership, you can't just go, don't think this is working, you can see it's not working, let's all have a chat or have a meeting. You need to come with some solid ideas, otherwise you're just trying to be ignored. Oh, is it getting late? Is everybody ready for a cup of tea?
I just saw Andy had asked the question.
Yes, Caitlin Walker.
Yes, there are few different names I'm hearing in the clean language and clean coaching space. Judy Rees, is it Wendy Sullivan as well? Also Mike Burrows of Agenda Shift, and there was one another name being mentioned as well. People have been referring to different names. I think was it David Grove first started this this clean language thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's really very good. In where I am working now, there is a community of who practices this clean language coaching. So I've been to 2 sessions now, and from my practicing of that from in the first session to second session has massively improved. It is a good thing to practice. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll go check that out.
We can do that here once, even if we don't find a speaker for it, we can just among ourselves practice that.
That's a fab idea.
Yeah.
Has anyone got more questions for Dapo?
Yeah.
In which case, I'd like to ask everyone to come off mute and to give Dapo a round of applause for a great presentation and obviously the discussion that followed it.
Thank you, Dapo.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Should we take a
Pleasure.
screenshot of this now?
Pleasure. It's my
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's very good. Yeah.
Welcome.